everybody, welcome back to The Hobby Musician. Today you're joining us right in the middle of our current building process, but don't worry, if you're brand new and you want to get caught up on all the episodes that have come before this, click the link at the top right now and that'll open up a playlist where I've arranged just the episodes in this particular build. Now today's video is all about painting, and I really like this phase of a build because if you think about it, kind of all the other parts of building an instrument are functional. You gotta wind pickups a certain way because they have to function a certain way. You gotta build a neck a certain way because it needs to function a certain way. But painting, staining, those are some of the ways that you can kind of have a creative expression as a builder, as an artist. So I really enjoy this part. Now, I also want to remind us, when we were meeting with Rob to kind of figure out what he wanted for this, I made sure to ask him sort of like general descriptions of aesthetics he likes. I didn't want him to get too specific with a color and a style because I told him I wanted at least one thing that I could kind of surprise him with in this build. So he is such a fan of like kind of the more out there wild design aesthetics. He has some other instruments that are just kind of crazy customized. So I know that something unusual is definitely going to suit him. So when I first thought of what I could do, my mind immediately went to hydro dipping. I wanted to get one of those big tubs of water. You drop paint which floats on the surface, and then by slowly dipping down your instrument and swirling around, all that paint kind of gets transferred and creates these awesome patterns. And if you pick some really vibrant colors, you get these gorgeous instruments. So I set about doing that. I went and I watched a whole bunch of tutorials on YouTube from other channels. I bought the exact name brand paints that all of those other builders were using. I made sure my water temperature was exactly what the manufacturers were. I went out and I also did what any good builder does. I practiced. I went and I got some scraps from other builds that I've done. And here is one that I want to show you. This is a cutout that I had lying around from another build, but I went and I did some tests. And if you look at this, you might be thinking to yourself, this looks disgusting. And you're absolutely right. Every single test I did was an utter failure. I could not come anywhere close to the kinds of results that I was seeing in these videos or the kinds of results you see on instruments that are finished. The best I could do was getting like these random streaks of dark, but if you can kind of see, there's this really light haze of oranges and greens. I just picked those colors for the tests. But none of this was looking anything like the other examples that I've seen. In addition to it, so forget just the final product, even the act of doing it, I was watching these videos of people and they were having like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes sometimes of working time. And I started to notice after about 10 seconds of dropping paint, the paint had already hardened into a film. And so when it was dipping down, I was getting this film that would kind of like flip up, and then as soon as I pull it out, it would kind of fall off. Everything about it wasn't working. So this is kind of a point where I want to share with you that I had to pivot. I had to abandon my idea. I did a lot of preparation, I did a lot of tests, and at the end, I had to abandon it. But I also want to encourage you, sometimes that can force you to think even more creatively. You can think outside the box even more when you have to solve a problem. And this was a problem I needed to solve. So I took a couple of days and I let the frustration get back down to manageable levels. And I thought to myself, well, are there any other aesthetics, any other examples of things that might suit my original intention? And I started thinking, yes, I've also seen really cool examples of kind of like paint splatter guitars. I've seen really, finished ones or people post images of it. And it's also a really unique aesthetic. Not a lot of people are going to have one of those. So I thought, okay, let me do some tests. So I took this, flipped it around to the other side, and I started to just fling. I went and got the colors that I knew I was gonna use, the bright blues, reds, pinks, blacks, that kind of stuff. And I started testing. I used different implements, wooden sticks to fling paint, paint brushes, big ones, small ones. And I started to get some cool aesthetics that I started to like. And I thought, you know what? This is still eye-catching. It's still out there, unique, creative, but it's also much more doable than the first one. So the way that I went about this is in this order. You can see in this time lapse, the very first thing I did to create kind of a clean canvas for this paint splatter is that I put a base coat. I went and got just flat white primer, and you can see here I did very carefully about 5 or 6 light coats. Each coat I make sure to keep very light, because when you see me using this method, I'm hanging the body vertically. If you get too much paint sprayed on in any one coat, you can start to get those runs and those drips as it kind of comes down from gravity. So keeping your coats light, but then going and doing a whole bunch of them, I have found to be a very effective method of getting a nice finish on those. I wait about 10 minutes in between coats to let the previous coat get a little tacky before the next one goes on. Well, then I just had to set up for my splatter painting, and you can see here I just laid down kind of a big tarp out in the backyard, and I started to splatter. The other nice thing about this technique that I discovered kind of as I was going through it is that it allows you to stop and look, and you can kind of see, do I have enough? Do I want more? And then you can also choose. You can choose to aim at a certain area of the guitar, or spread out your colors, or concentrate your colors. And so as I was going, splattered the front, let it dry a couple of days, flipped it over, splattered the back, and without further ado, here is the final project. You can see I put the neck on here for easier handling. But you can see this is what we ended up with. Now, a couple notes that I want to make is that I did put in the pickup covers. You can see here. So as I was splattering, I put in the pickup covers. Now, the pickups aren't in here, but that way that as I was splattering, I wanted to create this effect that the swirls and the splatters would create almost an unbroken visual canvas on the front. So later I'm going to come back and load the pickups into these covers, but that was one thing I did on the front. Now I did that same idea on the back with our cavity covers. So we've said before, these are kind of those magnetic cavity covers that we've made. So it's the tremolo, the electronics, but I made sure to put them in when I was doing the painting, so that once again you can see like the long streaks of colors kind of flow through and create this really unique canvas for it. Finally then, as you can see here, to protect this paint job, I wanted to put a clear coat, just a glossy clear coat over it. And once again, I was hanging the body vertically, so I made sure to do about 5 or 6 really light coats, 10 minutes in between. And that way, after a few days of letting that clear coat dry, I could come back, polish this, sand it down, polish it down to get this really nice shiny finish that you see that we've got for this guitar. So I hope that you got something out of that episode, and as you can tell, we're getting really close to being able to deliver this over to Rob, so definitely come back and check out the final episodes in this build. And as always, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, play on, my friends, play on.